I'm Sasha Wynter, owner of Compassionate Care Training Academy, and I'm so glad that you're here today. This series is all about coaching excellence in direct support work, helping us lead with care, clarity, and confidence. We believe in sowing seeds of compassion and cultivating excellence in everything we do. This is just the beginning, and I have so much more coming your way. So I hope you will stay tuned and let's grow together. Welcome, everyone, to episode one of our three-part series on coaching excellence. Today, we're focusing on the foundation coaching philosophy and the 5 practical tips. This episode is all about setting the stage for effective support of direct support professionals. We'll cover 3 key areas: the core philosophy that underpins great coaching, how to build confidence in the people you're coaching, the importance of asking the right questions, creating sustainable documentation practices. By the end of this session, you'll have concrete, actionable strategies you can implement immediately. This is part of the Compassionate Care Training Academy's Trainers Facilitation Guide series. Let's dive in and build a foundation for coaching excellence together. This is the practical guide for supervisors and trainers who supports direct support professionals with documentation. The focus today is on coaching techniques that help build confidence and consistency so we can support our teams in a way that feels encouraging and effective. One key principle will guide everything we talk about today: coach the skill, not the person. Every DSP wants to do a good job, and our role is to help guide them there, not criticize them. When we keep that mindset, we create a more supportive learning environment and give people the best chance to grow. Every direct support professional generally wants to do good work, and I always start from that belief. When someone is struggling with documentation, they usually need support and guidance, not judgment. My role as a coach is to build confidence and strengthen critical thinking so the learner can develop habits that are consistent and sustainable over time. The language we choose really matters because our words can either open people up or shut them down. For example, instead of saying, "You're not documenting correctly," I would reframe it by saying, "Let's look at how we can make this note tell the complete story of the support you provided." Now, that kind of response keeps the conversation collaborative, encouraging, and focused on growth. When I coach someone, I like to start with what they're doing well. People are much more open to feedback when they hear strengths first because it helps them feel seen and appreciated before we talk about any improvements. For example, I might say, "I can tell you spent meaningful time supporting Jordan. Let's work together on making sure your documentation reflects all of that great work." That kind of opening signals respect, not judgment, and it sets a collaborative tone right from the start. It keeps the conversation focused on working together rather than pointing out mistakes. For tip number 2, I want to focus on asking questions instead of giving answers. When I resist the urge to correct someone immediately, I give them space to notice that the gap and work towards the answer themselves. That approach keeps the coaching conversation thoughtful and collaborative, and it helps build critical thinking skills that last long after the session is over. So, as I review this note, I ask myself 4 questions. First, about the individual: what skill were they working on? And what progress did I observe today? Next, about the support: What did I actually do? And what prompt level did I use? Then I think about the response. How did the individual react? And what happened after my intervention? Finally, I check the note itself and I ask whether another staff member would understand exactly what happened just by reading it. Those questions help me slow down, reflect more clearly, and document in a way that is useful for the whole team. They also keep the focus on helping the learner discover answers rather than just handing them the answer right away. For tip number 3, I want to emphasize focusing on one skill at a time. It can be tempting to try to fix everything at once. But when we do that, learners can feel overwhelmed and the message doesn't really stick. I found that it works much better to choose one area to improve, let that skill settle in, and then move on to the next one. On the screen, I walk through a 4-week progression. In week 1, I focus only on documenting staff intervention. In week 2, I add prompting levels to each note. In week 3, I connect the support to independence goal. And in week 4, I strengthen the objective language throughout. That kind of layering creates small wins, and those small wins matter. They build confidence, they help each improvement become a habit, and they give learners a real sense of progress along the way. For tip number 4, I use the praise coach praise method, which is a simple sandwich approach to feedback that helps people grow without losing confidence. I like it because it keeps the conversation positive, but still gives clear direction on what needs to improve. On the screen, the first step is praise. Here, I start by acknowledging exactly what they did well. For example, I might say, "You clearly described the activity and what the individual was doing. That is a strong start." That kind of specific recognition helps the learner feel seen and appreciated. Next come the coaching point. This is where I offer the improvement collaboratively, not critically. I might say, "Let's strengthen this note by explaining exactly what you did to support the individual during your activity. I want it to feel like we're working on it together, not like I am pointing out a mistake." Then I close with praise again. I might say, "Adding that information will make your documentation much stronger and paint a complete picture of the support you provided." Ending this way reinforces progress and leaves the learner feeling encouraged about the change. That's really the value of this method. It keeps learners confident, makes them more receptive to feedback, and helps them stay engaged instead of becoming defensive. For tip number 5, I want to focus on turning mistakes into learning opportunities. Instead of just marking something wrong and moving on, I ask the learner to revise it. That simply shift makes the feedback much more meaningful because they are actively involved in the correction instead of just hearing the answer. On the screen, I use the example, "Alex cooked dinner." I would start by asking what important information is missing from this note. That question helps the learner look more closely at the documentation and notice the gaps for themselves. From there, I guide them to think through the key pieces that should be included. I want them to identify the staff intervention, the prompt level, the goal connection, and the outcome. In other words, what support was provided, what kind of prompting was used, which independent skill was being practiced, and how Alex responded or what was accomplished. Then I have them rewrite the note with those details included. That active participation creates deeper, longer lasting learning. because the learner is practicing how to improve the work rather than just hearing that it needs improvement. Thank you so much for watching episode 1 with me. We've covered the foundation of coaching excellence and walked through the first 5 tips for supporting direct support professionals. And I hope it's given you some practical ideas you can use right away. In episode 2, we'll keep building on that foundation with tips 6 through 10. And we'll also talk about how to handle some of the most common challenges trainers face in the field. I hope you will stay connected and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. The best coaching conversations are still ahead, and I can't wait to see you in our next episode. Thank you.